The train's whistle cut through the Montana wind like a knife through old leather, then faded into nothing, leaving behind a woman standing alone on the weathered platform of Cedar Ridge Station. Snow dust swirled around her boots, catching in the folds of her traveling cloak. Anna Mayfield stood perfectly still, as if movement might shatter something fragile within her. 28 years old, with hands that knew hard work and eyes that had seen too much. She'd returned to the town where her father had buried her mother 18 years ago. The weight of those years pressed down on her shoulders like iron. The platform creaked beneath her feet. Cedar Ridge hadn't changed much, still the same cluster of wooden buildings huddled against the endless sky. Still the same mountains rising like stern judges in the distance. The depot stood empty save for old Sam Tucker, the station master, who peered at her through the frosted window before turning away. No one waited for her. She'd expected that, had prepared for it during the long journey from Chicago. Still, the emptiness of the platform struck her like a physical blow. Anna shifted her canvas bag to her other hand. Everything she owned fit inside 2 dresses, a few underthings, her mother's Bible, and $17 sewn into the lining. Her hands, roughened from years in the textile mills, ached in the cold. She pulled her gloves tighter, hiding the scars that marked her as surely as any brand. The bench beside the depot wall looked as tired as she felt. She brushed off the snow and sat, needing a moment to gather her courage before facing the town. The wood groaned under her weight, a lonely sound that echoed in the vast quiet. That's when she noticed him. A man stood near the freight office, tall and broad-shouldered, watching her with an expression she couldn't read, not the curious stare of a busybody or the calculating look of someone sizing up prey. Just watching. His coat hung open despite the cold, revealing a worn flannel shirt and leather vest. A cattleman's hat shadowed his face, but she could see enough strong jaw, weathered skin, eyes the color of winter sky. Anna looked away first. She'd learned long ago that holding a man's gaze invited trouble. The stranger didn't move, didn't approach, just stood there like he'd grown roots into the platform boards. Wind rattled the depot sign, and Anna pulled her cloak tighter. She needed to move, needed to find the old parsonage she'd heard stood empty on the edge of town, but exhaustion weighted her limbs like stones. "Train's gone." The voice startled her, deep, quiet, like distant thunder. The man had moved closer, not threatening, just near enough to speak without shouting. "I'm aware," Anna said, not looking at him. "Not many folks get off here in winter, especially alone." She said nothing. Let him think what he wanted. "Sam says you asked about the old parsonage." Now she did look up, sharp and quick. "Sam Tucker needs to mind his own business." The ghost of a smile touched the man's mouth. "Sam Tucker's been minding everybody's business since before I was born. Name's Colt Jameson. I run the horse station north of town." Anna didn't offer her name. Didn't want to, but something in his manner, patient, undemanding, loosened her tongue. "Anna Mayfield." Mayfield. He turned the name over like examining a stone. Doc Mayfield's girl. Her spine stiffened. "His daughter, yes. I remember when he passed. Good man. Helped birth half the county. That was a long time ago. 15 years, give or take." Colt shifted his weight, boots scraping on the wooden platform. "The parsonage has been empty near as long. Roof's questionable. No stove. Windows are mostly broken. I'll manage. Wasn't suggesting you couldn't." He reached into his coat, pulled out something wrapped in brown paper. "Was heading home when the train came in. This was meant for my supper, but..." He set the package on the bench beside her. "Welcome home, Miss Mayfield." Before she could refuse or thank him, he touched his hat brim and walked away. Long strides, purposeful but unhurried. Anna watched him untie a brown horse from the hitching post, swing into the saddle with practiced ease. He didn't look back as he rode north, disappearing into the gathering dusk. The package sat beside her, radiating warmth through the paper. Her stomach clenched with hunger she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Pride warred with need. Need one. Inside the paper, she found fresh bread and thick slices of ham, still warm from someone's kitchen. Anna ate slowly, making it last. The food tasted like kindness, something she'd almost forgotten existed. By the time she finished, full dark had settled over Cedar Ridge. Lamplight glowed in windows along Main Street. She could hear the tinny piano from the Lucky Dollar Saloon, the bark of dogs, the creak of wagons heading home. Time to move. Time to face whatever came next. The parsonage squatted on the south edge of town, a shadow against shadows. Even in the dark, Anna could see Colt Jameson hadn't exaggerated. The front steps sagged. Shutters hung at crazy angles. The door stood slightly ajar, held by a drift of old snow. Inside was worse. Wind whistled through gaps in the walls. The floor felt soft in places, dangerous. What furniture remained had been picked over by scavengers or time. In what must have been the main room, a few pews lay overturned like fallen soldiers. Anna set down her bag and surveyed her new home. Most would see only ruin. She saw possibility. She'd survived worse places. The vestry and back proved more sheltered. Someone had boarded up the window, keeping out the worst of the wind. A moldy mattress lay in one corner. She'd sleep on the floor instead, wrapped in her cloak. As she spread her spare dress over the cleanest patch of floor she could find, her thoughts drifted to the man at the station, Colt Jameson. He'd looked at her without judgment, without the sharp curiosity that usually followed a woman traveling alone. Just looked, then offered food and truth about the parsonage's condition. She didn't trust kindness, couldn't afford to, but his had seemed different, somehow matter-of-fact, like noting the weather or the price of grain. Anna wrapped herself in her cloak and tried to find a comfortable position on the hard floor. Tomorrow she'd look for work. The general store, perhaps, or taking in washing. She had strong hands and knew how to make herself useful. She'd survived Chicago's factories. She could survive Cedar Ridge. Wind found every crack in the walls, carrying the scent of snow and sage. Somewhere in the darkness, a coyote howled. The sound should have frightened her. Instead, it felt like a greeting, wild calling to wild. She thought again of gray eyes under a cattleman's hat, of bread still warm in brown paper, then pushed the thoughts away. She hadn't come here looking for anything but solitude and a chance to breathe free. Still, as sleep finally claimed her, Anna found herself wondering if Colt Jameson's horse station lay very far north of town, and whether a man who noticed broken windows might also notice other broken things that needed mending. The coyote called again, closer now. Anna pulled her cloak tighter and let the sound carry her into dreams of open sky and mountains that stood watch like patient guardians. For the first time in years, she slept without fear of what morning might bring. Morning came harsh and bright through the gaps in the vestry walls. Anna woke stiff with cold, her breath misting in the frigid air. Ice crystals had formed on her cloak during the night, and her fingers felt numb despite keeping them tucked close to her body. She sat up slowly, working, feeling back into her limbs. The parsonage looked even more desolate in daylight dust motes dancing in shafts of sun that shouldn't have been able to penetrate a proper roof. But she'd slept undisturbed, and that counted for something. Anna straightened her dress as best she could and prepared to face the town. She needed work, needed supplies, needed to establish herself before the good citizens of Cedar Ridge decided she didn't belong. Her stomach gnawed with hunger, but she'd grown used to that particular ache. At the pump behind the parsonage, she broke the ice with a stone and worked the handle until rusty water flowed clear. The cold shocked her fully awake. She washed her face and hands, then paused, pulling off her gloves to rinse the travel dust from her fingers. The scars showed pale against her skin, a web of old burns crossing her left hand and wrist, disappearing beneath her sleeve. A splash of molten metal in the factory. The foreman had said she was lucky not to lose the hand entirely. Lucky. She'd been 16. Ma'am. Anna spun, yanking her gloves back on. A boy stood at the corner of the building, maybe 10 years old, tow-headed and gangly. He stared at her hands with the frank curiosity of childhood. "What do you want?" The words came out sharper than intended. The boy took a step back. "My ma sent me. Said to tell you she's got washing needs doing. If you're looking for work, 2 bits a load." Anna forced her voice softer. "Your mother is kind. What's her name?" "Mrs. Weber. We run the bakery." The boy's gaze kept drifting to her covered hands. "Did it hurt the burning?" Heat flooded Anna's cheeks. "Yes. My PA got burned once, at the forge. He yelled something awful." The boy seemed to realize he might have said too much. "Ma says come by if you want the work." He scampered off before Anna could respond. She stood alone by the pump, gloves wet, hands trembling slightly. Already it started the stares, the questions, the curiosity that followed her like a shadow. But work was work. She couldn't afford pride. The walk to town proper took only minutes, but long enough for Anna to gather her composure. Cedar Ridge's main street stretched before her 24 buildings, trying hard to look permanent. The Weber bakery sat between the bank and a millinery shop, its windows fogged with warmth. Inside, the scent of fresh bread nearly buckled her knees. A plump woman with kind eyes looked up from kneading dough. "You must be Miss Mayfield. I'm Sarah Weber." She wiped her hands on her apron, not offering to shake hands a small mercy. "Tom said he found you." "Your boy, yes." That child could find trouble in an empty room. Sarah's smile took any sting from the words. "I've got tablecloths and aprons need washing. Burns from the ovens. You understand. Most folks in town send their delicate things to the Chinese laundry, but I prefer to keep my business local when I can." Anna recognized the test in those words. "I appreciate the work, Mrs. Weber." "Good. I'll have Tom bring the basket round this afternoon. You got what you need, soap? Washboard?" "I'll manage." Sarah studied her with intelligent eyes. "The old parsonage isn't fit for man nor beast, Mrs. Morrison has a room to let above the postal office. Clean, reasonable." "The parsonage suits me fine." "Independent. I respect that." Sarah turned back to her dough. "One more thing, my husband runs the forge down the way. He's looking for someone to keep his books. Nothing fancy, just tracking orders and accounts. You have any experience with figures?" Anna's heart leaped, but she kept her voice steady. "I kept books at the mill where I worked." "Thought you might have. City girl like you. Coming back here alone. Takes backbone." Sarah shaped the dough with practiced hands. "Tell him Sarah sent you. And Miss Mayfield, welcome home." Anna left the bakery with her first spark of hope since stepping off the train. 2 possibilities for work in one morning, more than she dared expect. The forge sat at the far end of the street, its doors thrown wide despite the cold. The ring of hammer on metal carried clearly. Anna paused at the entrance, letting her eyes adjust to the dim interior. A barrel-chested man worked at the anvil, muscles bunching with each strike. Not young, but powerful still. He glanced up, set down his hammer. "Help you, Miss..." "Mrs. Weber suggested I speak with you about keeping your books." "Did she now?" He grabbed a rag, wiped sweat from his face. "Sarah's got opinions about everything. Usually right, though. You, the Mayfield girl." "Anna Mayfield, yes." "Carl Weber." He gestured to a cluttered desk in the corner. "Books are a mess. Last fellow I hired to manage them lit out for the goldfields, owing me 2 weeks' wages. You planning on staying?" "I am." "Can you make sense of that disaster?" Anna approached the desk, scanning the scattered papers. Receipts, orders, payments due chaos, but familiar chaos. "I can..." $2 a week, 3 mornings. Start tomorrow if that suits." "It does. Thank you, Mr. Weber." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Miss Mayfield. Don't pay mind to folks who stare. Small town got small minds sometimes, but there's good people here too. Outside. Anna paused to catch her breath. The morning had brought more kindness than she'd expected, more than she knew how to receive. She started back toward the parsonage, needing solitude to process it all. That's when she saw him again. Colt Jameson stood at the postal office, reading a letter. The same worn coat, the same steady presence. He looked up as she passed, and their eyes met. Anna meant to nod and continue walking. Instead, she found herself stopped, caught by something in his gaze. Not pity, not curiosity. Something else. Recognition, perhaps, of one damaged soul seeing another. Miss Mayfield. He touched his hat brim. Mr. Jameson. Heard you're taking on the Weber washing. News traveled fast in Cedar Ridge. Among other things. Good. Sarah Weber's decent folk. He folded the letter, tucked it away. How was the parsonage? Standing, barely. That ghost smile again. About what I figured. There's sound lumber out at my place. Leftovers from building the new barn. You're welcome to what you need. I can't pay for lumber. He didn't ask you to. He shifted, boot heel scraping on the boardwalk. Been meaning to clear it out anyway. You'd be doing me a service. Anna knew charity when she heard it, no matter how he dressed it up. Thank you, but I'll make do. Suit yourself. He studied her for a moment, and she fought the urge to hide her gloved hands behind her back. You know, my mother used to say pride makes a cold bedfellow. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She was also stubborn as a mule when she set her mind to something. His eyes held hers, steady and patient. Reckon you might have that in common. Before Anna could form a response, a woman's voice shrilled from across the street. Colt Jameson, you stop right there! A young woman in too many ribbons bustled toward them, skirts swishing, pretty in a brittle way, with calculating eyes that sized up Anna in one sweep. Dolly! Colt's voice carried no warmth. You promised to call on Sunday. Papa waited dinner. She slipped her arm through his with proprietary ease, then turned a bright, false smile on Anna. I don't believe we've met. I'm Dolly Morrison. My father owns the bank. Anna Mayfield. Oh, the doctor's daughter. How brave of you to return after so long away. Dolly's gaze lingered on Anna's carefully gloved hands. All alone, too. You must tell me all about your adventures in the city. Another time, perhaps. Of course. You must be exhausted, living in that dreadful old parsonage. I do hope you won't be there long. It's not really suitable for a respectable woman. She tugged at Colt's arm. Come along. Papa wants to discuss that loan for your new stock. Colt didn't move. In a minute. Dolly's smile hardened. Now, Colt, Papa doesn't like to be kept waiting. Then maybe Papa should have thought of that before sending you to fetch me like a trained dog. Pink flooded Dolly's cheeks. She released his arm, chin lifting. Well, I see your manners haven't improved any. Her gaze cut to Anna. A word of advice. Miss Mayfield, in a town like this, the company you keep matters. Choose carefully. She flounced away, ribbons fluttering like angry birds. Charming, Anna murmured. That's one word for it. Colt looked tired suddenly. Older. Her father holds paper on half the county. Thinks that gives him say over the other half. Does it? Only if you let it. He straightened, touched his hat again. That offer of lumber stands. No strings, no expectations. Just neighbor helping neighbor. He walked away before she could respond. Long strides carrying him toward the bank. Anna watched him go, noting the way townspeople nodded as he passed. Respected, not feared. A good man, they'd say. Solid, reliable. Dangerous, Anna thought. Kindness without condition was the most dangerous thing of all. It made you hope, made you vulnerable, made you forget why you'd built walls in the first place. She hurried back to the parsonage, needing its shabby shelter. But even there, reminders waited. Tom Weber had left a basket of laundry by the door. A note tucked inside listed Sarah's instructions and reminded Anna about Sunday services. "You'd be welcome," it said simply. Anna carried the basket inside and got to work. Water from the pump, cold enough to burn. Soap that raised memories of other washings, other towns. But as she scrubbed tablecloths and aprons, her thoughts kept drifting to gray eyes that didn't look away, to lumber offered freely, to a man who stood up to bankers' daughters without flinching. By the time she'd hung the washing on a makeshift line, the sun had climbed toward noon. Her hands ached, but it was good hurt honest work, honest pain. Tomorrow she'd start at the forge, bringing order to chaos. She had a place to sleep, work to do, bread to earn. And if a tall horseman figured too often in her thoughts, well, that was her business alone. She'd learned long ago that some hungers couldn't be fed, some thirsts couldn't be slaked. Better to keep her head down, her hands busy, her heart locked tight. But as afternoon shadows grew long and she sat mending a torn apron, Anna found herself wondering about that lumber, about roofs that leaked and walls that let in wind, about pride, and whether it really did make such a cold bedfellow after all. Rain came 3 days later, steady and cold, finding every gap in the parsonage roof. Anna set out pots and buckets to catch the worst of it, but water still pooled on the warped floorboards. She worked by lamplight, trying to make sense of Carl Weber's accounts, while drops pattered into tin containers with maddening regularity. The forge books were beginning to show order under her careful hand. 3 mornings a week had already stretched to 4. Carl grateful for her neat columns of figures. The washing for Sarah Weber brought steady income too. Between the two, Anna could afford basic supplies and oil for her lamp. It wasn't comfort, but it was survival. Thunder rolled overhead, and a new leak opened directly above her makeshift desk. Anna sighed, moving her papers to safety. The lumber Colt Jameson had offered haunted her thoughts. Pride was one thing, but pneumonia was another. Still, she couldn't bring herself to ask. Asking meant owing, and owing meant vulnerability. A knock at the door interrupted her brooding. Who would venture out in this weather? Anna wrapped her shawl tighter and picked her way through the puddles to answer. Colt Jameson stood on her threshold, water streaming from his hat brim. Evening, Miss Mayfield. Mr. Jameson. She stepped back. Come in, though I can't promise it's any drier inside. He entered, taking in the collection of containers, catching rain. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Brought you something. From beneath his coat, he produced a bundle wrapped in oilcloth. Figured you might not have had time for supplies today. Inside she found bread, still warm, dried beef, and a small pot of honey. Her stomach clenched with hunger. She'd been rationing her meager supplies, making them stretch. I can't. It's from Sarah Weber. Said to tell you the extra washing you did for the hotel earned it? He met her gaze steadily. Though between you and me, I think she just wanted to make sure you were eating. A convenient lie, kindly meant. Anna's throat tightened. Thank her for me. I will. He glanced around again. That offer of lumber is generous but unnecessary. Miss Mayfield. His voice carried a note she hadn't heard before. Not pity, exactly. Something deeper. There's no shame in accepting help. No, Anna heard the bitterness in her own voice. In my experience, Mr. Jameson, help always comes with a price. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, someone always comes collecting. Rain drummed harder on what remained of the roof. Colt studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Reckon you've got cause to think that way. He moved toward the door, then paused. From his pocket, he drew something small, wrapped in brown paper, Almost forgot. This is yours. Bought and paid for. You did some mending for Jake at the livery stable. He traded this in payment. Anna unwrapped it carefully. A ball of good wool yarn. Deep blue like evening sky. Her hands trembled slightly. She'd mentioned to Jake that she knew knitting, hoping for work. Don't recall doing any mending for Jake. Must have slipped your mind. Colt touched his hat. Evening. Miss Mayfield. Try to stay dry. He was gone before she could protest, leaving her standing with the yarn in her hands. Anna sank onto her one reliable chair, the blue wool soft against her scarred fingers. Such a small thing, but it had been so long since she'd had anything beautiful, anything that wasn't strictly necessary for survival. The rain continued through the night. Anna barely slept, moving containers as they filled, trying to find dry spots for her few possessions. By morning, exhaustion weighted her limbs like lead, but Carl Weber expected her at the forge, and she wouldn't give the town reason to doubt her reliability. She dressed carefully, pinning her hair severely back, pulling her gloves on with practiced precision. The rain had stopped, leaving puddles that reflected gray sky. Main Street was nearly empty too early for most folks, too wet for casual strolling. At the forge, Carl was already working, the heat a blessed relief after the damp parsonage. "You look tired, Miss Anna." "I'm fine, Mr. Weber," he grunted, unconvinced. "Sarah says that roof of yours is more whole than shingle." "It serves." "Does it now?" He plunged a horseshoe into water, steam hissing. "Colt Jameson was here yesterday. Mentioned he had lumber going begging, good wood, too, pine planks from that stand up on Miller's Ridge." Anna kept her eyes on the ledger. How fortunate for whoever needs it. "Woman, you're stubborn as my wife, and that's saying something." Carl set down his hammer. "You know what your problem is." "I'm sure you'll tell me." "You're so busy looking for the trap, you can't see the gift." He wiped his hands on his leather apron. "I've known Colt Jameson since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. His daddy was a hard man, drunk more often than sober. Colt joined up with the cavalry young just to get away. Came back different, quieter, steadier. Man who's seen too much, maybe, but a good man for all that." Anna said nothing, but her pen stilled on the page. "He keeps to himself mostly. Runs his horse station, helps neighbors when they need it. Doesn't ask for thanks or payment. That nonsense with Dolly Morrison, her daddy's been pushing that match for 2 years. Colt's too polite to tell her flat out no, but anyone with eyes can see his heart's not in it. I don't see what this has to do with lumber." Carl laughed, a rusty sound. "Don't you? Well, maybe you will, given time." He returned to his work. "Just remember, Miss Anna, sometimes folks help because it's right, not because they want something. This isn't the city. Out here, we take care of our own." Anna bent back to the books, but Carl's words echoed. She'd learned hard lessons about the cost of kindness, the price of trust. But what if those lessons didn't apply here? What if Cedar Ridge operated by different rules? The morning passed quietly. Anna finished the accounts, prepared invoices, organized receipts. Normal work, soothing in its ordinariness. She was preparing to leave when hoofbeats thundered down Main Street. Through the forge's open doors, she saw Colt Jameson race past on his brown horse, heading for Doc Harrison's office. His face was grim, focused. Others emerged from buildings, drawn by the urgency. "What's happened?" Anna asked as Carl stepped outside. "Don't know, but Colt wouldn't ride like that without cause." They joined the small crowd gathering near the doctor's office. After several tense minutes, Colt emerged supporting a woman, Maria Santos, who worked at the hotel. Blood stained her sleeve, her face pale with pain. "What happened?" someone called out. "Accident at the hotel." Colt answered, helping Maria into the doctor's buggy. "Lamp exploded. She tried to put out the fire." Anna's hand went involuntarily to her own scarred wrist. She knew that pain, that terror, before she could think better of it. She stepped forward. I can help. I have experience with burns. Colt's eyes met hers, understanding flickering there. Doc could use the help. Inside the doctor's office, Anna pushed aside memory and focused on need. She helped clean the burns, prepare bandages, mix the poultice that would ease pain and prevent infection. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, gentle but sure. You've done this before, Doc Harrison observed. Yes, no explanation, no details, just acknowledgement. Maria gripped Anna's hand with her uninjured one. Gracias, señorita. Thank you. Rest now. Keep the bandages dry. I'll check on you tomorrow. Outside, the crowd had dispersed. Colt waited by his horse, hat in hand. That was well done, he said simply. Anyone would have helped. No. His voice was quiet, but certain. Not everyone would have known how. Not everyone would have been that gentle. Anna pulled her shawl tighter, suddenly aware of his scrutiny. I should go. I'll walk you. That's not necessary. Humor me. They walked in silence through the muddy streets. The rain had washed the air clean, leaving everything sharp-edged and clear. At the parsonage, Colt stopped at the sagging gate. About that lumber. Mr. Jameson. Just listen, please. He turned his hat in his hands, choosing words carefully. I know what it's like to come home broke and too proud to ask for help. I know what it's like to lie awake wondering if you've got the strength for another day. And I know what it's like to realize that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Anna looked at him then, really looked, saw the fine lines around his eyes, the weariness beneath the steady exterior, saw someone who'd fought his own battles, carried his own scars. If I accept your lumber, she said slowly, it's a loan. I'll pay you back. If that's what you need it to be. And I'll need help with the repairs. I don't know much about roofing. A smile touched his lips. Reckon I could spare a few hours? Tomorrow afternoon work for you? Yes. He settled his hat back on his head. Good. I'll bring the wagon around afternoon. He started to leave, then turned back. Miss Mayfield, what you did for Maria today that took courage, facing your own pain to help ease someone else's, that's a rare thing. He was gone before Anna could respond, leaving her standing at her broken gate with rain-washed air filling her lungs and something warm uncurling in her chest that might have been hope. That night, she unwound the blue yarn and cast on stitches by lamplight. The familiar rhythm of knitting soothed her, needles clicking softly as rain returned to tap against the windows. She'd knit a scarf, she decided, something warm and practical for a man who spent his days in the weather. Not because she owed him, not because he expected it, but because sometimes Anna was beginning to understand. You gave not from debt but from gratitude, and maybe, just maybe, that was a different thing entirely. True to his word. Colt arrived the next afternoon with a wagon full of pine planks. The sun had emerged after days of rain, weak but welcome, turning puddles to mirrors and lifting steam from wet earth. Anna had spent the morning clearing what she could from the main room, preparing for the work ahead. Afternoon, Miss Mayfield. He swung down from the wagon seat with easy grace. Good day for repairs. Mr. Jameson. She tied her hair back with a strip of cloth, worn her oldest dress, ready to work, not to impress. I appreciate this. Let's see what we're dealing with first. Together they surveyed the damage. The roof was worse than either had thought. Several beams showed rot, and daylight filtered through in a dozen places. Colt walked the perimeter, testing boards, making mental calculations. It's salvageable, he concluded. But it'll take more than patches. Need to replace at least half the roof. Shore up these walls. I understand if it's too much. Didn't say that. He rolled up his sleeves. Just means we'd better get started. They worked in companionable rhythm. Colt showed Anna how to measure and mark boards while he cut them to size, She learned to hand him tools before he asked, to anticipate the next step. The sun climbed higher, warming the air, drawing the scent of pine resin from fresh-cut wood. "You're handy with those," Colt observed as Anna deftly handled a hammer. "I've had to be." She drove a nail home with 3 precise strikes. In the factories, if something broke and you couldn't fix it yourself, you didn't work. No work meant no pay. "How long were you there in Chicago?" Anna paused, considering how much to reveal. 12 years, since I was 16. He didn't ask why she'd left Cedar Ridge so young, didn't press for details. Just nodded and passed her another board. Long time to be away from sky like this. She looked up at the vast blue overhead, cloudless now, stretching to mountains that seemed to hold up the world. Yes, I'd forgotten how big it could be. They worked until sweat dampened their clothes despite the cool air. When Colt called a break, Anna brought water from the pump, cold and sweet. They sat on the wagon tailgate, drinking in silence. "Can I ask you something?" Anna surprised herself with the question. "Ask away." "Carl Weber said you were in the cavalry, that you came back different." Colt's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened slightly around his water cup. "Carl talks too much." "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" "No, it's all right." He set down the cup, looked at his hands. "I was with the 7th for 6 years. Saw things, did things, the kind that visit you at night whether you invite them or not." Anna knew about uninvited nighttime visitors. "Is that why you keep to yourself?" "Partly, also because I learned the value of quiet, out there, in all that violence and noise. I used to dream about silence, about a place where the loudest sound was wind in the grass." He glanced at her. "Reckon you understand that?" "Yes." "Thought you might." He stood, stretching. "We'd better get back to it if we want to finish the worst of it before dark." As afternoon wore on, others took notice of the work. Tom Weber appeared with a message from his mother and stayed to help carry lumber. Jake from the livery stable stopped by with extra nails. Even crusty Sam Tucker from the depot brought his toolbox, muttering about proper repairs for once. Anna found herself at the center of unexpected community. These people who barely knew her gave their time and sweat freely, joking as they worked, sharing stories. She stayed quiet mostly, still wary, but something inside her began to unclench. "Looking good," Sam declared as they finished installing new supports. "Few more days like this, you'll have a proper roof again." "I don't know how to thank you all." "Bah!" Sam waved her off. "This is what neighbors do. You do the same." Would she? Anna wasn't sure. The city had taught her to mind her own business, to keep her head down and her problems private. But watching these people work together, teasing and helping in equal measure, she thought maybe she could learn different lessons here. As the helpers departed with the setting sun, Colt remained to secure the day's work. Anna watched him check each board, test every joint, careful, thorough. A man who did things right the first time. "That should hold for now," he said finally. "I can come back day after tomorrow, if that suits." "You've done so much already." Anna. Her name on his lips stopped her. He'd been calling her Miss Mayfield all day, maintaining proper distance. "It's not finished. I don't leave things unfinished." She looked at him in the fading light, dusty, tired, patient, a good man, as everyone kept telling her. But more than that, a man who understood broken things might need time and care to mend properly. "Day after tomorrow, then—" He smiled, a real one this time that changed his whole face. "Good. Oh, and you might want this." He reached into the wagon and pulled out a bundle. "Sarah Weber sent it. Said you'd know what to do with it." Inside was fabric not fine, but good sturdy cotton in a deep green. Enough for a new dress, maybe 2. Anna's throat tightened. "She said to tell you it's payment for the extra mending you did last week." Another convenient fiction. Anna was starting to recognize them now, the small kindnesses disguised as transactions. the gifts wrapped in the pretense of trades. Part of her wanted to refuse, to maintain the walls that had kept her safe. But safe was another word for alone, and she was tired of being alone. Tell her thank you. Colt climbed back onto the wagon seat. Anna today was good. Working together like that felt right. Before she could respond, he clicked to his horses and pulled away, leaving her standing with fabric in her arms and warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the day's exertion. That night, she cut out pattern pieces by lamplight, planning a dress that would be both practical and presentable. As her scissors whispered through fabric, she thought about community, about neighbors, about the dangerous comfort of belonging somewhere. The old parsonage felt different with its new shored walls and partially repaired roof. Still shabby, still cold, but solid now. Like it might weather whatever storms came, like she might too. Outside, coyotes called in the darkness, but the sound no longer seemed lonely. Just wild creatures declaring themselves to the night, claiming their place under the vast Montana sky. Anna smoothed the green fabric and let herself imagine wearing it to church on Sunday, walking among the townspeople not as a stranger but as one of them. It was a dangerous thought. Hope always was. But as she worked her needle through fabric, creating something new from raw materials, Anna began to think that some dangers might be worth the risk. 2 days later, when Colt's wagon rumbled up to her gate again, she was wearing her new dress. It fit perfectly, the green bringing out the gold flecks in her brown eyes. She'd left her hair softer today, though still properly pinned. Colt stopped mid-step when he saw her, something flickering across his face too quickly to name. "Morning, Anna." "Good morning." She smoothed her skirt, suddenly self-conscious. "I thought, since we're working on the front of the house today, where people can see—" "You look fine." His voice was gruff. Real fine. They worked differently that day, aware of eyes on them. Dolly Morrison made a point of strolling past 3 times, parasol twirling, lips pursed in disapproval. Other townspeople found reasons to pass by as well, but their interest seemed more benign. Several stopped to admire the progress, to offer advice or encouragement. By midday, they'd replaced the worst of the front wall boards. The parsonage was beginning to look less like an abandoned ruin and more like a home that simply needed care. "Lunch," Anna offered, gesturing to the basket she'd prepared. "It's not much, but—" "Sounds good." They ate on the front steps, in full view of anyone who cared to look. Bread and cheese, apples from someone's tree, water cold from the pump. Simple fare, but satisfying after the morning's labor. "You're different today," Colt observed. "How so?" "Less guarded, more." He searched for the word. "Present." Anna considered this. "Maybe I'm starting to believe I can stay." "Good." He took a bite of apple, chewed thoughtfully. "Town needs people who've seen the world beyond. Keeps us from getting too set in our ways." "Is that why you came back after the cavalry?" "Partly. Also because this place is in my bones. The mountains, the sky, the way the grass moves like water in the wind. Tried to forget it, but couldn't." He looked at her directly. "Sometimes where you come from calls you back, whether you want it to or not." Anna understood that pull. Felt it even now, in the familiar shapes of the mountains, the scent of sage on the breeze. Home was more than a place, it was a frequency your heart recognized, no matter how long you'd been away. They finished lunch in comfortable silence, then returned to work. By late afternoon, the front of the parsonage looked almost respectable. Still needed paint and new windows, but the bones were sound now. "One more session should do it," Colt said, surveying their progress. "Get that back wall secured. Patch the last of the roof. I'll pay you back for the lumber, once I've saved enough." "Anna," he turned to face her fully, "has it occurred to you that maybe I don't want to be paid back? But why? Why help me like this?" He was quiet for a long moment, looking past her to the mountains. Because I know what it's like to need a fresh start. Because you work hard and don't complain. Because—" He stopped, jaw tightening. Because when you walked off that train, looking ready to fight the whole world if necessary, I recognized something. His eyes met hers. I thought, there's someone who's been through fire and come out the other side. Someone who might understand that survival isn't the same as living. Anna's breath caught. No one had ever seen her so clearly, named her struggle so precisely. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Do what? Accept kindness, trust people, believe in second chances. Neither did I. His smile was rueful. Still learning, to be honest, but maybe that's something we could figure out together. The words hung between them, weighted with possibility. Anna felt the old panic rise too much, too fast, too risky. But stronger than the fear was a pull she couldn't name, drawing her toward this quiet man who offered help without conditions and saw her scars as proof of strength rather than shame. Maybe, she said softly, maybe we could. Sunday morning dawned crisp and clear, the kind of autumn day that made the mountains stand sharp against the sky. Anna stood before her small mirror, pinning her hair with trembling fingers. She'd decided to attend church her first time since returning to Cedar Ridge. The green dress hung well after a final pressing. She'd added a collar of simple lace, salvaged from one of her Chicago dresses. Looking at her reflection, she hardly recognized herself. The gaunt, wary woman from the train platform had gained some softness around the edges. Regular meals and honest work had brought color back to her cheeks. But as she pulled on her gloves, covering the scars that marked her as different, the familiar anxiety returned. Church meant people, questions, judgment, the concerned looks that masked curiosity about where she'd been, what she'd done, why she'd come back alone. A knock interrupted her fretting. She opened the door to find Sarah Weber, resplendent in her Sunday best. Thought you might like company for the walk, Sarah said simply. Anna's throat tightened. That's kind of you. Nonsense. Can't have you sitting in the back like a stranger. You'll sit with us. Carl's already saved the space. They walked together through streets filling with families in their church clothes. Children ran ahead, chasing leaves. Couples strolled arm in arm. Normal people living normal lives. Something Anna had thought she'd never be part of again. Nervous? Sarah asked. Yes. Good. Means it matters. Sarah adjusted her bonnet. First time back is hardest. After that, you're just another face in the congregation. But Anna knew better. She'd never be just another face, not with her past, her scars, her years away. Still, Sarah's presence helped. This plump baker's wife had shown her nothing but kindness, expecting nothing in return. The church sat on a small rise, its new white paint gleaming. The old one had burned years ago. Anna remembered. This replacement was simpler but sturdy, built by the community working together. Inside, heads turned as they entered. Anna kept her eyes forward, but she felt the weight of stairs, heard the whispers start. Sarah's hand on her elbow steered her firmly to a pew near the middle, where Carl waited. Miss Anna, he nodded, shifting to make room. Others filed in around them. She recognized faces now. Jake from the livery, Sam Tucker, Doc Harrison. Some nodded. Others looked away. Dolly Morrison, seated with her parents across the aisle, shot Anna a look that could have curdled milk. Then Colt entered, and Anna's breath caught despite herself. He wore a dark suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, his hair still damp from washing. His eyes found hers across the church, and he touched his hat brim before taking a seat near the back. Reverend Matthews, young and earnest, began the service. Anna tried to focus on his words about forgiveness and renewal, but her awareness kept drifting to the man sitting 6 rows back. She could feel his presence like sun on her shoulders. Halfway through the sermon, little Mary Stewart, seated in front of Anna, began to fuss. The child couldn't have been more than 3, and clearly the hard pew and long service taxed her patience. Her mother tried to quiet her, looking embarrassed as the cries grew louder. Without thinking, Anna leaned forward. "May I?" she whispered. Mrs. Stewart, looking grateful, passed the child back. Anna settled Mary on her lap, pulled off one glove, and began to show her a string game she'd learned from the factory girls. The child quieted immediately, fascinated by the patterns Anna's fingers created. It wasn't until Mary grabbed her scarred hand, tracing the marks with innocent curiosity, that Anna realized her glove was off. In church, in front of everyone. Panic flared, but Mary had her hand tight, babbling happily about pretty pictures on Anna's skin. Anna forced herself to stay still, to not snatch her hand away and frighten the child. "See," Mary announced to anyone listening. "Pretty lady has pictures." Heat flooded Anna's face. She could feel the congregation's attention, heavier now, focused on her exposed scars. This was why she'd stayed away from people, why she'd hidden. "Indeed she does," Reverend Matthews's voice carried clearly. "Pictures that tell a story of survival and strength. We all carry marks from our journeys, some visible, some hidden. What matters is not the marks themselves, but how we choose to live with them." He continued his sermon, weaving Anna's scars into his message about redemption and courage. Anna sat frozen, Mary still playing with her fingers, tears threatening. When the service ended, Anna expected to flee, but person after person stopped her, not to stare or question, but to share their own stories. Mrs. Olson showed her a scar from a farming accident. Ben Carter talked about his limp from a broken leg that never healed right. Even proper Mrs. Morrison, Dolly's mother, quietly mentioned her sister who'd been burned in a house fire. "We all have our troubles," she said softly. "Some just show more than others." Anna found herself surrounded by understanding she hadn't expected. Sarah stayed close. Carl stood protective, and through it all, she was aware of Colt watching from across the churchyard. Finally, the crowd thinned. Anna pulled her glove back on, exhausted by the emotional weight of the morning. She was preparing to leave when Colt approached. "Walk you home." She nodded, not trusting her voice. They strolled in silence at first, leaving the churchgoers behind. The streets were quiet, most folks gathering for Sunday dinner. A breeze stirred fallen leaves, carrying the scent of someone's baking. "That was brave," Colt said finally. "What you did for the Stewart child?" "I forgot myself." "No." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "You remembered yourself, who you really are beneath the fear." Anna looked up at him, this man who saw too much. "And who is that?" "Someone kind. Someone who helps others without thinking of the cost. Someone who's been trying so hard to hide. She forgot there might be people worth being seen by." The words hit her like physical blows. "You don't understand." "Don't I?" His voice stayed gentle, but there was steel beneath. "You think you're the only one with scars, the only one who wakes at night remembering things that won't stay buried." "I didn't mean—" "I know." He sighed, removed his hat, ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not good at this. Talking, but seeing you today, letting that child see you true, it made me think maybe I've been hiding too. Behind different walls, maybe, but hiding all the same." They resumed walking, slower now. Anna's mind churned with the morning's revelations, the acceptance she'd found, unexpected and overwhelming. Colt's admission of his own struggles, the way he'd said, "You remembered yourself," like he'd always known who she really was. "Why do you care?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why does it matter to you if I hide or not?" Colt was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. They'd reached her gate before he spoke. "Because from the first moment I saw you, standing on that platform like you were ready to take on the world alone, I recognized something. Not just the hurt lots of people carry hurt, but the way you held yourself, like you'd decided surviving meant turning to stone. He met her eyes. I spent 2 years like that after I came back. 2 years of being dead inside, going through the motions. Then one day I was breaking a horse, and she was fighting me every step, all fear and fury. And I realized we were the same, that horse and me, both so scared of being hurt again. We'd forgotten how to live. What happened? Took time, patience, learning to trust again, bit by bit. The horse came around first. She's my best saddle mount now. Took me longer to follow her example. His smile was rueful. Still learning, truth be told. Anna understood. Trust was not a single choice, but 1,000 small ones, made daily. Each time she'd accepted help. Each moment she'd let herself be seen. She'd been choosing trust over safety. "I should go in," she said softly. "Anna." Her name on his lips still affected her. "Would you have dinner with me? Not today, I know Sarah's expecting you, but maybe Tuesday, nothing fancy, just dinner. A proper invitation. A public acknowledgement of whatever was growing between them." Anna's instinct was to refuse, to retreat to safety, but hadn't she hidden long enough? "Yes," she heard herself say. "Tuesday." His smile transformed his face, years falling away. "Good, that's real good." He left her at her door, and Anna went inside on unsteady legs. The parsonage felt different now, not just because of the repairs, but because she felt different in it. Less like a refugee, more like someone who might actually belong here. She removed her gloves slowly, looking at her scars in the afternoon light. Mary Stuart had called them pictures, had seen beauty where Anna saw only shame. Maybe the child had the clearer vision. That evening, Sarah Weber appeared with leftover pot roast and stories from Sunday dinner. She stayed while Anna ate, chattering about town gossip and plans for the harvest festival. Normal conversation about normal things, as if Anna had always been part of the community fabric. "Heard Colt Jameson asked you to dinner," Sarah mentioned casually. Anna nearly choked on her tea. "How could you possibly know that already?" "Honey, in a town this size, news travels faster than wildfire." Sarah's eyes twinkled. "He's a good man. Been alone too long, just like someone else I could mention." "It's just dinner." "Mm-hmm." Sarah's knowing look said volumes. "Well, when it's just dinner, you might want to wear that blue wool you've been knitting into a scarf. Brings out your eyes." After Sarah left, Anna sat in her repaired sanctuary, needles clicking as she worked the blue wool. She'd intended it for Colt, a thank you for his help. Now she wondered if that intention had been about more than gratitude all along. Outside, night settled over Cedar Ridge, but for the first time since returning, Anna didn't feel the darkness as a threat. Instead, it felt like a blanket, soft and encompassing, holding the town and all its imperfect people in gentle embrace. Tuesday would come soon enough. For now, she had the rhythm of her knitting, the solid walls around her, the memory of a child finding beauty in her scars. Small things, perhaps, but Anna was learning that life was built from small things, accumulated slowly, like trust, like hope, like love. She smiled, remembering Colt's expression when she'd said yes. Maybe they were both learning that surviving wasn't enough. Maybe, together, they could remember how to live. The first snow came early that year, falling silent and thick on a Wednesday morning. Anna woke to a world transformed white, blanketing every surface, softening the harsh edges of buildings, making even the humblest structures beautiful. She'd been in Cedar Ridge nearly 2 months now, and winter's arrival meant she needed warmer clothes, better boots, a dozen things her careful budget couldn't stretch to cover. She dressed in layers, preparing for her morning at the forge. The work there had expanded. Carl trusted her with more complex bookkeeping, even correspondence with suppliers. The steady income helped, but winter in Montana demanded more than she'd anticipated. At the pump, she broke through a skin of ice to wash, The cold shocked her fully awake, made her gasp. She was reaching for the towel when she heard labored breathing behind her. Colt stood at her gate, one arm pressed against the post, face pale beneath his tan. Snow clung to his coat, and she could see dark stains blood on his sleeve. "Colt!" She rushed to him, slipping on the icy ground. "What happened?" "Horse spooked. Threw me into a fence post." His words came short, pained. "Didn't want to worry Doc Harrison. It's not that bad." "Stop talking." Anna got her shoulder under his good arm. "Come inside." He was heavier than she'd expected. Solid muscle and bone. They managed the steps, though she felt him trying not to lean too hard, still protecting her even while injured. Inside, she eased him into her one good chair. "Let me see." "Anna, really, let me see." Something in her tone silenced his protests. She helped him out of his coat, trying not to notice the way his jaw tightened with pain. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, blood soaking through. "This needs to come off." Her hands hesitated at his collar. They'd grown comfortable these past weeks' dinners together, walks after church, long talks while working on the parsonage. But this was different, intimate. "I can manage," he said, but his fumbling fingers couldn't work the buttons. "Stop being stubborn." Anna's own fingers trembled slightly as she undid his shirt, eased it off his injured shoulder. The wound was ugly, but not deep, a long gash where the fence had caught him, already starting to clot. She forced herself to focus on the injury, not the broad expanse of chest, the old scars that spoke of his cavalry years. One particularly savage mark ran across his ribs. "Shrapnel," he said quietly, noticing her gaze. "Arizona territory, 6 years ago." Anna said nothing, just fetched water and clean cloth. She'd tended enough injuries in the factories to know what needed doing. As she cleaned the wound, she felt him watching her. "Your hands don't shake anymore." She paused. "What?" "When you first came back, your hands shook. Not always, but sometimes. When you were nervous or tired." His good hand covered hers briefly. "They're steady now." Anna resumed cleaning the gash. Throat tight. "Hold still. This will sting." She applied the carbolic solution she kept for emergencies. Colt hissed through his teeth but didn't pull away. As she worked, the enforced closeness overwhelmed her, his warmth. The scent of leather and pine that clung to him, the trust implicit in letting her tend him. "There." She secured the bandage. "You should see Doc Harrison. Make sure it doesn't need stitching." "It's fine." He caught her hand as she turned away. "Anna, thank you." She looked down at their joined hands, his calloused and strong, hers scarred but steady. "You'd have done the same." "That's not why you helped." "No," she admitted. "It's not." The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Anna knew she should step back, resurrect the walls that kept her safe. Instead, she found herself leaning closer, drawn by something stronger than fear. "Hannah." Her name was barely a whisper. The door burst open. Tom Weber tumbled in, eyes wide with panic. "Miss Anna, come quick. There's been an accident at the mine. They need everyone who knows doctoring." The moment shattered. Anna grabbed her coat and medical supplies. "How bad?" "Cave in. At least 6 men trapped." Tom was already backing out the door. "Doc Harrison sent me to find anyone who could help." "I'm coming too," Colt said, reaching for his shirt. "You're injured." "I've got 2 good hands and experience with field medicine." His tone brooked no argument. "We can discuss my shoulder later." They rushed through the snowy streets. The mine sat 2 miles north of town, and already wagons were heading that direction. Anna found herself squeezed between Colt and Tom on a freight wagon, medical supplies clutched in her lap. At the mine, chaos reigned. Women clustered near the entrance, some weeping, others stone-faced with worry. Men worked frantically to clear debris. Doc Harrison had set up a makeshift treatment area, Already tending to those pulled from the rubble? Thank God, he said when he saw Anna. I need you here. Burns and crush injuries. Colt, if you're able, help with the digging. Anna shed her coat and got to work. The next hours blurred together cleaning wounds, setting bones, offering comfort where medicine couldn't help. She lost track of Colt, focused only on the next patient, the next need. Maria Santos was there too. Her own burns healed enough to help. Together they worked with quiet efficiency, two women who understood that sometimes the best medicine was a gentle touch and calm presence. The rescuers brought out the last trapped miner just as the sun began to set. Alive, all of them, though some badly hurt. Anna's hands were steady as she sutured a gash on young Billy Coleman's forehead, even as exhaustion made her vision blur. That's the last of them. Doc Harrison announced, "Good work, everyone." Anna looked up to find Colt watching her from across the treatment area. His shirt was filthy, his bandage spotted with fresh blood from the exertion, but his expression held something that made her heart race. "I'll check that shoulder now," she said, moving to him. "It can wait." "No, it can't." She was too tired for argument. "Sit." He sat. She peeled back the bandage, relieved to see the wound hadn't reopened badly. As she cleaned and redressed it, she became aware of the whispers around them. The whole town had seen them work together, seen the familiar way she tended him. "Let them talk," Colt said quietly. "I'm not ashamed," Anna replied, surprising herself with the truth of it. "Good." He stood when she finished, swayed slightly. "Let me take you home." They rode back on Sam Tucker's wagon, pressed close on the narrow seat. Snow had started falling again, soft and silent. Anna found herself leaning into Colt's warmth, too exhausted to maintain proper distance. "You were magnificent today," he said. "The way you handled those injuries, kept people calm. You've got healing hands. Anna Mayfield. My hands have done a lot of things, not all of them healing. Maybe that's what makes them so gentle now. You know what hurt feels like." At her door, he insisted on seeing her inside. The parsonage was cold, the fire long dead. Colt knelt to rebuild it, favoring his injured shoulder. "You should go home, rest." In a minute, he coaxed flames from kindling, added larger wood. Soon, warmth began to creep back into the room. "There. Can't have you catching cold after today." He stood, turned to face her. In the firelight, she could see exhaustion etched on his face, but something else too, a decision made, perhaps a line preparing to be crossed. "Anna, I need to say something." Her heart hammered. "Colt, just listen, please." He took a breath. "I've been alone a long time. Thought I preferred it that way. Easier, safer. Then you stepped off that train, all pride and hidden hurt, and something in me recognized its match. Anna couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I know you're scared. Know you've been hurt in ways I probably can't imagine. But I'm asking you to trust me. To let me—" He stopped, searching for words. "To let me love you, if you'll have me. Not because you need saving or I need fixing, but because together we make sense in a way nothing else has for a very long time." The words hung between them, raw and honest. Anna felt tears threaten, hot and sudden. "I don't know how to be what you need." "You already are." He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. "Just by being yourself, scars and all, maybe especially the scars." She thought of the day's work, how naturally they'd moved together in crisis. Thought of all the small moments building to this shared meals, quiet conversations, the gradual erosion of walls she'd thought permanent. "I'm frightened," she whispered. "So am I." His hand cupped her face gently. "But I'm more frightened of letting you go." Anna leaned into his touch, felt years of armor crack and fall away. When he kissed her, it was soft, careful, a question more than a statement. She answered by rising on her toes, pressing closer. letting him feel her yes in the way her hands fisted in his shirt. When they parted, both breathing unsteadily, Colt rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," Anna heard herself say. Not like that. Just stay. I don't want to be alone tonight." He understood. They sat by the fire, Anna curled against his good side, his arm around her. No words needed, just the crackle of flames, the whisper of snow against windows, the steady beat of his heart under her hand. "I'm not easy to love," she warned. "Neither am I." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Maybe that's why we'll be good at it. We know the value of what's hard won." Anna closed her eyes, let herself believe. Outside, snow erased the day's tracks, offering the world a clean slate. Inside, two damaged souls found warmth in each other, building something new from the ashes of old pain. Tomorrow would bring challenges, gossip, adjustments, the slow work of learning to be together. But tonight, with Colt's arms around her and peace settling into her bones, Anna thought she finally understood what home meant. Not just a place, but a person who saw you clearly and chose to stay. The fire burned low, but neither moved. Some moments were too precious to disturb, too fragile to risk, so they held each other as snow fell and the world slept. Two survivors learning that the opposite of alone wasn't just together, it was beloved. The news of the coal company's interest in Cedar Ridge arrived on a gray Thursday morning, delivered by a man in a city suit who looked as out of place as a peacock among pigeons. Anna watched from the forge window as he made his way down Main Street, stopping at the bank, the mercantile, the hotel. "Trouble," Carl Weber muttered, following her gaze. "Mark my words, men like that don't come to places like this with good news." By noon, the whole town buzzed with speculation. The Frontier Coal Company wanted to buy land rights throughout the valley. "Good money," the man said. "More than most folks saw in 5 years of ranching or farming." "They're holding a town meeting Saturday," Sarah told Anna that evening. "Every property owner gets a say." "But not everyone owns property," Anna pointed out. Sarah's expression darkened. "No, and that's going to be a problem." The problem became clear Saturday night. The meeting hall overflowed, but only certain voices would count. The banker Morrison, who owned half the commercial buildings, the larger ranchers, the established families. Not the Mexican workers who'd been here longer than most. Not the Chinese families who ran the laundry and grew the vegetables everyone ate. Not the widows barely holding on to their late husband's claims. Anna slipped in quietly, finding a spot along the back wall. She owned nothing, had no vote, but something drew her here, perhaps the memory of Chicago factories, of powerful men making decisions that crushed the powerless. Colt stood near the front, his expression grim. They'd been careful since that night by the fire, no public displays, nothing to feed gossip, but she felt his awareness of her across the crowded room. The coal company man, Mr. Hutchinson, spoke with practiced smoothness. Progress, he said, prosperity, jobs for the community. All they needed were the mineral rights. Farmers could keep farming. Ranchers could keep ranching. Everyone would benefit. "Except when the wells go dry," Colt said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "Except when coal dust covers the grazing land. I've seen what mining does to a place." "Mr. Jameson, isn't it?" Hutchinson's smile showed too many teeth. "I understand your concern, but our methods are quite modern. Minimal disruption." "Minimal!" Colt's tone could have frozen flame. "Like in Willow Creek, that valley's dead now. Nothing grows, water runs black." "Different situation entirely." "Same company, though." Tension crackled through the room. Morrison stood, using his banker's authority. "Let's be practical, folks. This is good money they're offering. Some of us could use it." "Some of us don't have a choice." "You mean," old Pete Harper called out, "not when you hold our mortgages." The meeting devolved into arguments. Anna watched it all. Seeing the divisions clearly, those with security could afford principles. Those struggling saw only survival. And beneath it all, the coalman smiled, knowing desperation would win him what persuasion couldn't. "This isn't right." Anna turned to find Maria Santos beside her, face troubled. "No," Anna agreed. "It's not." "In Chicago," Maria said quietly. "Did you see this big men coming, making promises, taking everything?" "Yes." Anna's hands clenched. "I saw it, lived it." "Then you know how it ends." The meeting broke up with nothing decided, but Anna could read the outcome in slumped shoulders and worried faces. Too many owed too much to resist for long. Outside, snow fell in thick flakes. Anna pulled her shawl tighter, starting for home, but Colt caught up to her. "Walk with me." She glanced around. People were watching. "Colt." "I don't care about gossip. Anna, not tonight." Something in his voice made her nod. They walked in silence until they reached the church, its windows dark. Colt led her to the side steps, brushed snow off for her to sit. "This is going to tear the town apart," he said. "It already is." "I can't stand by and watch it happen. My father, he lost everything to a mining company back in Pennsylvania. That's why we came west. Thought it would be different here." Anna took his hand, glove to glove. "What can you do? Morrison holds the real power." "Maybe, but there might be another way." He turned to face her. "There's a territorial law about community watersheds. If enough people band together, declare the water sources protected for community use, no individual can sell those rights. Would that stop them? It would slow them down, maybe long enough for folks to think clearly instead of desperately." His jaw tightened. "But it means standing up to Morrison, to all of them, and I can't do it alone." "You're not alone," Anna said firmly. "You have Sarah and Carl, Doc Harrison, others who see clearly." "And you," she squeezed his hand. "And me, though I don't know what use I'll be. I don't own property, don't have standing." "You have something more important. You have trust." He shifted closer. "People have watched you these months, seen you work, help neighbors, tend the sick. Maria Santos tells everyone how gentle you were with her burns. Tom Weber brags about how you taught him figures. You might not own land, but you own something rarer, respect." Anna's throat tightened. "I don't know if that's true." "I do." His free hand cupped her face. "You don't see it, do you? How strong you are. How much courage it takes to choose trust over fear, every single day." "I'm not brave, Colt. I'm terrified most of the time." "That's what makes it courage." He leaned closer. "Anna, Voices approached. They pulled apart as Dolly Morrison rounded the corner with two friends, their laughter dying when they spotted the couple. "Well?" Dolly's voice dripped acid. "How cozy. Planning your own meeting. Colt." "Evening, Dolly." Colt stood, helping Anna up. "Ladies, Daddy says you're making trouble, stirring up the wrong element." Dolly's gaze cut to Anna. "Though I suppose that's nothing new for you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Anna asked quietly. "Oh, nothing. Just that some of us remember why you left town so suddenly all those years ago, after your father died, when the Weber boy got so sick." Dolly's smile was sharp as glass. "Funny how he recovered after you disappeared." Anna went cold. The accusation hung in the air that she'd somehow caused young Tom Weber's childhood illness, that her presence was dangerous. It was lies, but lies had power when people were afraid. "That's enough, Dolly," Colt said, voice hard. "Is it? We're supposed to trust someone who runs away, who comes back with scars and secrets and won't say where she's been?" Dolly stepped closer. "Some of us have lived here all our lives, contributed to this community. We have a right to protect it." "From what progress, prosperity?" Anna found her voice, though it shook. "I've seen what your kind of prosperity does to people who get in its way." "My kind." Dolly's laugh was brittle. At least we know where I come from. Can you say the same? She swept away with her followers, leaving Anna shaking, not with fear, but with rage she'd thought burned out of her. Anna, she's right. The words tasted bitter. I did run. When Father died, when I had nothing. When Tom got sick and people whispered it was because I'd nursed him with my cursed hands, I ran. You were 16, alone. What else could you do? I could have stayed, fought the rumors, proved them wrong. She pulled away from him. Instead, I became exactly what they said, someone who brings trouble. Stop. Colt caught her shoulders, gentle but firm. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who survived, who came back despite the pain, despite the memories, who helps anyone who needs it without asking for thanks. You see what you want to see? No, I see what is. His hand slid to frame her face, and what I see is the woman I love. Scars, past, fears, and all. The words broke something in her. She pressed her face against his chest, felt his arms close around her. I don't know how to fight them. People like Morrison, like Dolly, they always win. Not always, not if we stand together. He held her tighter. Will you stand with me, Anna? Not just against the coal company, but against anyone who tries to make you small. She thought of all the times she'd stood alone, the factory floors where standing up meant losing work, the boarding houses where causing trouble meant sleeping in the street. All the places that had taught her silence and invisibility or survival. But this wasn't Chicago. This was Cedar Ridge, where people had taken her in despite her strangeness, where Sarah Weber brought her food and Maria Santos called her friend, where a quiet horseman offered his heart along with his protection. Yes, she whispered into his shirt. Yes, I'll stand with you. They stayed there in the shadow of the church, holding each other while snow fell around them. Tomorrow would bring challenges. The town meeting was only the beginning. But tonight, Anna let herself draw strength from the solid warmth of the man who loved her. We should go, Colt said eventually, before you freeze. In a moment. She pulled back enough to see his face. Dolly was wrong about Tom getting sick because of me, but she was right that I have secrets. We all do. Mine might hurt you. If Morrison investigates, if he finds out about Chicago, then we'll face it together. Colt's conviction steadied her. Whatever comes, Anna, together. She rose on her toes and kissed him, there in the churchyard where anyone might see. Let them look, let them gossip. She was tired of hiding, tired of shame for surviving the only way she could. When they finally parted, Colt walked her home through quiet streets. At her door, he paused. There'll be another meeting Tuesday, a different kind. Sarah's organizing the women, the workers, everyone who doesn't have a voice in the official proceedings. I'll be there. Good. He kissed her forehead. Get some rest. We have a fight ahead. Inside, Anna lit her lamp and unwrapped the blue scarf she'd finally finished. Tomorrow she'd give it to him, a public declaration of where she stood. Tonight, she'd plan. Because Colt was right together, they were stronger than apart. The coal company thought Cedar Ridge would be easy pickings. They were about to learn different, and Anna Mayfield, who'd spent so long running from fights, was finally ready to stand her ground. The Tuesday meeting took place in Sarah Weber's kitchen, the largest in town. Women crowded around the table and lined the walls. Wives, widows, working girls from the hotel, Maria Santos and her Mexican compatriots, even the Chinese woman who ran the vegetable garden. Anna stood near the stove, still uncertain of her place among these established women. Ladies, Sarah began, flour still dusting her aprons from the day's baking. We may not have votes, but we have voices, and more importantly, we have power they don't recognize. What power? Widow Harper asked bitterly. My husband's gone, mortgage is due, and Morrison's already measuring my land for sale. The power of the purse, Sarah said firmly, and the power of refusal. How many of you cook for these men, wash their clothes, keep their houses, tend their children? A murmur ran through the room as understanding dawned. You're suggesting we strike, Mrs. Chen spoke carefully, her English precise. In San Francisco, strikes end badly. Police come, people hurt. Not a strike exactly, Sarah clarified. Just selective service. Morrison wants his shirt starched. Sorry, too busy. Hutchinson needs a meal at the hotel, kitchen's closed. Doc Harrison supports us, but the others let them feel what life is like without us. Anna watched the women process this. Some looked frightened, others thoughtful. These were people who'd never defied authority, never risked the little security they had. I have another idea, Anna heard herself say. Every head turned to her. In Chicago, when the factories wanted to break us, we documented everything, every broken promise, every violation of law, every harm done. The territorial government might not care about Cedar Ridge, but newspapers do. Scandal sells papers. You're suggesting we contact journalists? Sarah's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. Hutchinson counts on operating in shadows. Daylight might send him scurrying. I know someone. Old Mrs. Gustafson said unexpectedly. My nephew works for the Territorial Dispatch. He's always looking for stories about big companies crushing small towns. The energy in the room shifted. Fear transformed into something fiercer determination. They spent the next hour organizing. Some women would gather testimonies from families affected by mining in other towns. Others would research the water rights law Colt had mentioned. Anna volunteered to write everything down, create a record that couldn't be ignored or destroyed. As the meeting broke up, Anna felt a hand on her arm. Mrs. Morrison stood there, and Anna tensed. My Dolly's a fool, the older woman said quietly. Spoiled by her father, thinks the world owes her deference. But I wasn't born to money. I know what it's like to have nothing. She pressed something into Anna's hand. My husband keeps copies of all his correspondence in the safe. The combination is his birthday, March 15th, 38. Before Anna could respond, Mrs. Morrison was gone, leaving her holding a key. Well, Sarah said, appearing at Anna's elbow, that was unexpected. I don't understand. Why would she? Because she's smarter than her husband thinks. Because she sees what this will do to the town her daughter will inherit. Because sometimes women understand loyalty differently than men. Sarah smiled grimly. Best not waste her gift. Anna walked home through streets dusted with new snow, mind racing. The key felt heavy in her pocket, weighted with possibility and danger. If Morrison discovered his wife's betrayal, if Anna was caught. You're thinking too hard. She startled to find Colt waiting by her gate. How do you do that, appear from nowhere? Practice. His smile faded as he took in her expression. The meeting was productive, maybe too productive. She told him about Mrs. Morrison, watched his eyebrows rise. That's significant. Morrison's correspondence could prove collusion, prior knowledge of the coal company's practices. But Anna, if you're caught, I know the risks. Do you? He stepped closer. Morrison's not above violence when cornered. Neither is Hutchinson. Then we'd better make sure I'm not caught. She met his gaze steadily. I'm tired of being afraid. Colt, tired of men like them taking whatever they want because everyone's too scared to stop them. Something shifted in his expression. Tonight, Morrison has a town council meeting. He'll be gone for hours. I'm coming with you. No, you're too recognizable. If someone sees you, then I'll keep watch outside. His tone brooked no argument. You're not doing this alone. Anna wanted to protest, but the relief of not facing this alone overwhelmed pride. All right. They agreed to meet at midnight. Anna spent the evening organizing her writing supplies, preparing to copy whatever she found quickly. Her hands shook only slightly as she dressed in dark clothes, pinned her hair severely back. The streets were empty, silent except for snow crunching under their feet. The Morrison house loomed against the sky, windows dark except for one Dolly's room. Anna guessed. "She won't come down," Colt murmured. "Too cold for her delicate constitution." They slipped around back. The key turned smoothly in the lock, and Anna was inside Morrison's study. Colt positioned himself by the window, barely visible in the shadows. The safe stood behind the desk, imposing and iron. Anna's fingers trembled as she worked the combination. March 15th, 38. The tumblers clicked, and the door swung open. Inside were ledgers, correspondence, property deeds. Anna lit the small lamp she'd brought, began reading quickly. Her stomach turned at what she found. Morrison had been planning this for months. Letters from Hutchinson detailed exactly how they'd pressure specific families, which mortgages to call in, which people to target first. Worse, there were receipts for payments to territorial officials, ensuring no interference. "Anna," Colt's urgent whisper made her freeze. "Someone's coming." Footsteps in the hall. Anna grabbed the most damning letters, shut the safe, spun the lock. The study door began to open as she dove behind the heavy curtains. "Told you I forgot my reading glasses." Morrison's voice, irritated. "Council meeting can wait 5 minutes." Anna pressed against the window, hardly breathing. Through a gap in the curtains, she could see Morrison rummaging on his desk. The letters burned in her hands. If he went to the safe... Found them. Morrison's footsteps retreated. Women, always moving things. The front door closed. Anna stayed frozen another full minute before Colt's soft tap on the window freed her. She slipped out the back door, legs shaking. They didn't speak until they reached the parsonage. Inside. Anna lit every lamp, spread the letters on her table. "This is worse than I thought," Colt said, reading over her shoulder. "They're not just after mineral rights. They plan to own the whole valley within 5 years. And they'll do it legally. Call in mortgages, buy out the desperate, pressure the rest." Anna's hands clenched. "Unless we stop them first." "We will. This proof changes everything. Mrs. Gustafson's nephew will want to see these. The territorial governor can't ignore evidence of bribery." Anna nodded, but exhaustion was catching up. The magnitude of what they'd done, what they were attempting, overwhelmed her. "Hey," Colt's hands on her shoulders steadied her. "We did it. You did it. Walked right into the lion's den and came out with his teeth." "I was terrified." "But you did it anyway. That's what courage is. Remember..." She turned in his arms, pressed her face against his chest. "What if it's not enough? What if they find another way?" "Then we'll find another way to stop them, and another after that. We don't quit, Anna. Not on the town, not on what's right, not on each other." She pulled back to look at him. "When did you become so wise?" "Must be the company I'm keeping." He kissed her forehead. "I should go. Let you rest." "Stay." The word surprised them both. "Not I don't want to be alone with these." She gestured at the letters. "They feel like poison in my house." Colt studied her face, then nodded. "All right." They sat by the fire, Anna copying the letters while Colt kept watch. Occasionally, he'd add wood to the flames or bring her water. Mostly, he was just there, solid and reassuring, a reminder that she wasn't fighting alone. As dawn approached, Anna finished the last copy. Her hand cramped, eyes burned, but they had what they needed. Evidence, proof, ammunition for the battle ahead. "You should sleep," Colt said. "I'll take these to Sarah, get them to the journalist." Together, Anna insisted. "We finish this together." He smiled, tired but fond. "Together, then." They bundled the copies carefully, left the originals hidden in Anna's floor cache. The original letters would go back to Morrison's safe soon, no need to alert him yet. But the copies would travel, spread like wildfire through newspapers and government offices. At Sarah's house, they found half the women from Tuesday's meeting already gathered. Word spread fast in Cedar Ridge. Sarah took the papers with grim satisfaction.
"This is it,"
she said. "This is how we win, not with force, but with truth." "Morrison will know someone was in his safe," Anna warned. "Let him wonder. Let him sweat. By the time he figures it out, these will be beyond his reach." Sarah squeezed Anna's hand. "You've done a brave thing, both of you. Now let us carry it forward." Outside, the sun was rising over the mountains, painting the snow-covered peaks gold. Anna stood with Colt, watching the light spread across the valley they were fighting to save. "No turning back now," she said. "Did you want to—" Anna thought of the woman who'd stepped off the train months ago, frightened and alone, wanting only to hide. That woman was still part of her, always would be, but she was more now, braver, stronger, loved. "No," she said, taking Colt's hand. "No turning back." The fight was far from over. Morrison and Hutchinson wouldn't give up easily. There would be pressure, threats, attempts to divide the town. But as Anna walked through the morning streets, she saw curtains twitch, doors open, people emerging to face the day. Her people now, her town, her stand. "Don't look at me like that," she murmured, feeling Colt's steady gaze. "Like what?" "Like I'm some kind of hero. I'm just—" "The woman I love," he finished. "Who happens to be heroic. I'll look at you however I please. Anna Mayfield." She squeezed his hand. Let him look. Let the whole town look. She was done hiding in shadows. Whatever came next, she'd meet it with her head high and her heart open. The battle for Cedar Ridge had begun. The retaliation came swiftly. Within days of the newspaper article exposing the coal company's schemes, Morrison began calling in mortgages. The widow Harper was first, given 30 days to pay in full or lose her farm. Others received similar notices. Fear rippled through Cedar Ridge like waves after a stone thrown in still water. Anna found herself at the center of the resistance without quite knowing how it happened. Her small parsonage became a gathering place for those facing eviction. She kept meticulous records, documenting every threat, every suspicious deadline, building a case that even territorial courts couldn't ignore. 23 families so far, she told the assembled group one evening. All with mortgages through Morrison's bank. All suddenly due. "He can't evict the whole town," Sam Tucker protested. "He doesn't need to," Colt said grimly. "Just enough to break our unity. Make examples of some, and others will fall in line." Anna felt the weight of desperate eyes on her. When had she become someone people looked to for answers? "We need a legal strategy, the territorial courts." A crash interrupted her. The window exploded inward, glass showering the floor. A rock wrapped in paper landed at Anna's feet. With shaking hands, she unwrapped it. "Stop now or burn like your father's clinic," she read aloud. The room went silent. Anna's father had died when his clinic burned, officially an accident, a knocked-over lantern. But there'd been whispers about debts, about pressure to sell the land the clinic sat on. Land Morrison now owned. "Anna," Colt was beside her instantly. "We should get you somewhere safe." "No." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. "That's what they want, for me to run again, to disappear like I did before." She looked around the room at frightened but determined faces. "I'm not 16 anymore, and I'm not alone." Maria Santos stood. "My brother works at the territorial capital. He says judges there are asking questions about Morrison's banking practices. The newspaper article started something. Then we keep pushing." Sarah Weber declared, "Every family that gets an eviction notice, we document. Every threat, we report. Make so much noise they can't ignore us." Plans formed quickly. Some would travel to the capital with evidence. Others would contact more newspapers. The women's group would expand their selective service campaign already. Hutchinson was complaining about the hotel's sudden lack of clean linens. As the meeting dispersed, Anna noticed Tom Weber lingering. The young man now shifted nervously. "Tom, what is it?" "I remember when I was sick, when you took care of me." His Adam's apple bobbed. "You made me tea that tasted awful, but made the pain stop. Sat with me all night when the fever was bad." Anna's throat tightened. "That was a long time ago. People said you made me sick, that you were cursed, dangerous." Tom met her eyes. "But I knew better. You saved my life. Miss Anna, I was too young and scared to say so then, but I'm saying it now." He left before she could respond. Colt found her there minutes later, tears on her cheeks. "Anna, what happened?" She told him about Tom, about the old accusations that had driven her from Cedar Ridge. "Maybe Dolly was wrong. Maybe I didn't run from guilt. Maybe I ran from pain." "Maybe you ran to survive," Colt said softly. "And maybe you came back when you were strong enough to stand." That night, they kept watch together. Morrison's threat hadn't been idle if he'd burned the clinic once. He might burn the parsonage now, but the hours passed quietly, and dawn found them exhausted but safe. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. Anna arrived at the forge to find Carl Weber packing tools. "Carl, what's going on?" His face was grim. "Morrison bought my loan from the Denver bank. Calling it in. I've got 2 weeks to pay or lose the forge." Anna's hands clenched. The forge was Carl's life, passed down from his father. "How much?" "More than I'll see in 5 years." Carl's shoulders slumped. "He knows I've been supporting you folks. This is his way of warning others. We'll find a way." "With what money?" Carl's laugh was bitter. "Face it, Miss Anna. He holds all the cards." But Anna had learned something in those Chicago factories. The powerful only held cards as long as people agreed to play by their rules. That afternoon, she found herself in Mrs. Morrison's parlor, invited for tea. Dolly glared from across the room but said nothing as her mother poured. "I suppose you know why I asked you here." "Mrs.?" Morrison said calmly. "Your husband is destroying this town." "Yes." No denial, no excuses. "He's forgotten what built it, who built it, the small people, the hard workers. Like I was, once." "Then help us stop him." "Mrs." Morrison set down her teacup carefully. "What do you need?" The question hung between them. Anna thought of all the secrets locked in Morrison's files, all the weapons that could be turned against him. Financial records. Proof of where the money really comes from, where it goes. Your husband isn't just a banker. He's facilitating something larger. The coal company owns him. Mrs., Morrison said simply. Has for years. They funded his bank, his political ambitions. In return, he clears the way for their expansion. "Mother," Dolly gasped. "You can't—" "Hush, child. You'll learn someday that there are things more important than money." Mrs. Morrison rose, went to her writing desk. "I can't access his main files, but I do handle the household accounts, including certain irregular expenses." She handed Anna a ledger. Inside were records of payments to territorial officials, to surveyors who falsified reports, to the fire chief who declared the clinic fire accidental. "This is enough to start an investigation. A real one." Mrs. Morrison resumed her seat. "I won't testify publicly, but I won't stand by while he destroys everything decent here either." Anna left with the ledger hidden under her shawl. Dolly's outraged voice following her. This changed everything. With real evidence of corruption, they could appeal to federal authorities, bypass the territorial government entirely. But first, she had to survive long enough to use it. That night, 3 men tried to break into the parsonage. They hadn't counted on Colt keeping watch, or on Sam Tucker and Jake from the livery showing up armed with shotguns. The would-be arsonists fled. But the message was clear. Morrison knew about the missing ledger. "You can't stay here," Colt insisted as they surveyed the damage. "It's not safe." "Where would I go?" Anna asked tiredly. "This is my home." "Our home," Colt corrected. "Come to the ranch. We've got men there, guns, protection." "And let everyone think I'm your kept woman." "Let them think what they want." His hands gripped her shoulders. "I almost lost you tonight. I won't risk it again." Anna wanted to protest, to insist on independence, but the fear in his eyes stopped her. He'd already lost so much she could see it in the way he held her, desperate and careful at once. "Just until this is over," she conceded. "Until this is over." The next morning, half the town turned out as Anna packed her few belongings. Women she'd helped with washing, men whose books she'd balanced, children she'd taught letters to. They formed a protective corridor as Colt loaded her things onto his wagon. Morrison watched from his bank window. Let him see, Anna thought. Let him see that breaking one only made the other stronger. At the ranch, Colt's men welcomed her with rough courtesy. The house was simple but solid, smelling of leather and wood smoke. Colt showed her to a small room, clean and sparse. "It's not much." "It's safe," Anna interrupted. "That's what matters." That night, she sat at Colt's kitchen table, copying Mrs. Morrison's ledger by lamplight. Colt kept watch while his foreman, an old cavalryman named Porter, cleaned rifles with practiced efficiency. "Heard you stood up to Morrison," Porter said without looking up. "That takes sand." "Or stupidity," Anna murmured. "Same thing sometimes." Porter's weathered face creased in a smile. "Colt says you're documenting everything, building a case." "Trying to." "Good. My son died in a mine owned by Hutchinson's company. Cave-in they could have prevented if they'd shored up proper. But timber costs money, and dead miners are cheaper than safe ones." Anna's hand stilled on the page. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be thorough. Make it stick." Porter set aside his rifle. "Whatever you need, men, guns, horses, to get those documents where they need to go, you've got it." The next days blurred together. Anna coordinated with the women in town, while Colt and his men provided security for families facing eviction. The territorial capital finally sent an investigator, though Morrison tried to intercept him. Sarah's nephew published article after article, keeping pressure on. Through it all, Anna and Colt moved around each other carefully, living in the same house but maintaining propriety, brushing hands over coffee, standing too close while reviewing plans. The tension between them grew daily, but neither would risk scandal that might undermine their cause. Then came the night Colt returned bloodied from a confrontation with Morrison's hired thugs. Anna tended his split lip, cleaned his scraped knuckles, tried not to let her hands shake. "You have to stop taking these risks," she whispered. "Can't, won't." He caught her hand. "Not when they threaten what I love." The town. "You, Anna, I mean you." The air between them crackled. Anna knew she should step back, maintain distance. Instead, she leaned closer, drawn by something stronger than propriety. "Don't look at me like that," she breathed, even as her hand rose to cup his bruised face. "Like what?" His voice was rough. "Like I'm worth fighting for, like I'm worth—" He kissed her, silencing doubts with certainty. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "You're worth everything," he said simply. "The ranch, the town, my life if needed, everything." Anna closed her eyes, let herself believe. Tomorrow would bring new battles. Morrison wouldn't give up easily. The coal company had deep pockets and long reach. But tonight, in this simple kitchen with this good man's arms around her, Anna felt something she hadn't in years. Not just hope or safety or even love. She felt unbreakable. "Together," she whispered. "Together," he confirmed. "Always." Outside, wind rattled the windows. But inside was warm and bright, and for the first time since stepping off that train, Anna truly believed she'd come home. Spring came early that year, melting the snow from the mountains and filling the streams with rushing water. The investigation into Morrison's corruption had gained momentum. Federal marshals arriving to review evidence. The coal company had withdrawn their representatives, sensing the tide turning against them. Anna stood on the porch of the old parsonage, now properly repaired and freshly painted. She'd moved back from Colt's ranch once the immediate danger passed, though he'd protested every step of the way. But she needed to reclaim her independence, to stand on her own before she could truly stand with him. "Admiring your handiwork," Sarah Weber joined her, carrying a basket of fresh bread. "Admiring how far we've come," Anna corrected. 6 months ago, this place was falling down. I was falling down. And now? Now, Anna smiled. Now I'm still standing. The town had transformed too, with Morrison under federal investigation and his bank seized. Families had breathing room. The mortgage calls had been reversed. The coal company's plans lay in ruins. Cedar Ridge would remain what it had always been, a small town where people took care of their own. "Colt's coming," Sarah observed, nodding toward the road. Anna's heart quickened as she watched him approach on horseback. They'd been careful these past weeks, maintaining proper courtship despite everything they'd shared. But today was different. Today, she had something to tell him. "Ladies." Colt touched his hat as he dismounted. "Sarah, Carl asked me to tell you he'll be late for supper, finishing up a big order." "That man and his forge?" Sarah shook her head fondly. "Well, I'll leave you two to talk." She winked at Anna and headed back toward town. Colt tied his horse to the gate, then joined Anna on the porch. "You look happy." "I received a letter today from the Territorial Medical Board." His brow furrowed. "Medical Board?" "I've been accepted into their nursing certification program. Doc Harrison recommended me, based on my work during the mine accident, and everything since." Anna's hands twisted together. "It means traveling to the capital for training. 6 months, maybe longer." Colt's face went carefully neutral. "That's wonderful. Anna, you'll make a fine nurse." "You don't sound happy about it." "I'm happy for you. Proud of you." He took her hands, stilling their nervous movement. "But I'd be lying if I said I wanted you to go." "I know." Anna squeezed his fingers. "Part of me doesn't want to go either. But I need to do this, not running away this time, running towards something. A purpose. A way to help that's truly mine." "I understand." His thumb traced the scars on her hand. "When would you leave?" "Next month. After the trial." Morrison's trial was set for May. Anna was scheduled to testify about the documents she'd found. "Will you wait for me?" Colt's laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "Anna, I'd wait for you forever if that's what it took." "I don't want forever, just 6 months, maybe a year." She looked up at him, letting him see all her hope and fear. "Then I want to come home, to you, to stay." "Is that a proposal, Miss Mayfield?" Heat flooded her cheeks. "I suppose it is, though it's hardly proper for a woman to—" He silenced her with a kiss, there on the porch in full view of anyone passing. When they parted, both were breathless. "Yes," he said simply, "to waiting, to you coming home, to whatever future we build together. Even if I'm not traditional, even if I want to work, to heal people, to be more than just a wife." "Especially then." His hands framed her face. "I fell in love with your strength. Anna, your independence. Why would I want to cage what I love most about you?" Tears pricked her eyes. "Some men would." "I'm not some men," he smiled. "Besides, someone needs to keep patching up all the fools in this town. Might as well be someone who knows what she's doing." They sat together on the porch steps, watching the sun sink toward the mountains. The blue scarf she'd knitted for him was wrapped around his neck despite the warm evening. Her hand rested in his, scarred fingers intertwined with calloused ones. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Anna asked. "When I got off the train?" "Often." "What did you see?" Colt was quiet for a moment. "I saw someone who'd been broken but refused to stay that way. Someone who needed a place to heal but was too proud to ask for help. I saw myself 2 years earlier. And now I see the woman who saved this town, who stood up to powerful men and won, who looks at injured people and sees how to help them heal." He brought her hand to his lips. "I see my future wife, who's going to be the finest nurse Montana's ever known." Anna leaned against his shoulder. "I was so angry when you wouldn't look away. That first time, when Tom stared at my scars and you just didn't. Why would I look away from something that proved how strong you are? That's what you saw, strength. That's what I see every time I look at you, then and now." He pulled her closer. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" She smiled, echoing their old refrain. "Like you're surprised to be loved exactly as you are." The door behind them opened. Tom Weber stepped out, taller now, growing into a man. "Sorry to interrupt. Ma sent me to invite you both for supper. She made pot roast." "Tell her we'll be along shortly," Anna said. Tom grinned. "She also said to tell you the whole town's talking about you two kissing in broad daylight. Mrs. Olson nearly fainted." "Good," Colt said mildly. "Maybe now Dolly Morrison will finally stop leaving calling cards at the ranch." After Tom left, they sat a while longer, watching lights come on in windows throughout Cedar Ridge, their town, their home, their future. 6 months isn't so long," Anna said. "No. And you'll write?" "Every week." "And when you come back?" "When I come back, we'll have that wedding Sarah's probably already planning. I'll set up a proper clinic. You'll run your ranch. We'll build a life." "A good life," Colt agreed. "Worth everything we went through to get here." Anna thought of all the miles traveled, all the pain endured, all the fears faced. The girl who'd run from Cedar Ridge would never have imagined this moment sitting with a good man who loved her, preparing for a future she'd chosen rather than one forced upon her. "Yes," she said softly. "Worth everything." As they rose to go to supper, Colt caught her hand. "One more thing. When you're in the capital, if you get scared or lonely or start doubting this is real, remember something." "What's that?" "Remember that somewhere in Montana, a cowboy is counting the days until you come home. Not because you need him, but because he needs you. Because you taught him that surviving isn't enough. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose to live." Anna kissed him then, pouring all her love and promise into it. Tomorrow would bring challenges, the trial, her leaving, the long months apart. But tonight, walking hand in hand toward the warm lights of the Weber house, she knew they'd weather whatever came. The girl who'd whispered, "Don't look at me like that," had become a woman who could meet any gaze steadily. The cowboy who never blinked had been right all along. Some things were worth looking at directly, no matter how much they'd been through. And as spring flowers bloomed in the valley, they'd fought to save. Anna Mayfield knew she'd finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not just love or safety or belonging, but the courage to accept all three. The future stretched before them, bright with promise. And for the first time in her life, Anna couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where in the world you're enjoying these Wild West tales. Please share in the comments below so we can connect and discuss your thoughts about Anna and Colt's journey. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Wild West Stories 1850. Give this video a like and hit the hype button to help more people discover these tales of love and courage in the American frontier.